The night the rain refused to stop, Teni Adeoye sat by her window, watching the streetlights blur through a curtain of water. Lagos had a way of crying when hearts broke, she thought. Thunder rolled across the sky like a heavy sigh. On the table beside her sat an unopened letter, slightly damp, edges crumpled, no return address. Only her name written in familiar, slanted handwriting. Femi. Her heart skipped. She hadn't seen or heard from him in 3 years. Not a call, not a word, not a ghost of a message. She'd imagined 1,000 ways to meet him again, 1,000 reasons for his silence. None of them involved a letter arriving out of nowhere on a rainy morning. Her hands trembled as she stared at it, afraid that whatever truth it carried would destroy the fragile peace she'd built around his absence. Teni met Femi in the most ridiculous way possible in the middle of Lagos traffic. Her Toyota Corolla had coughed, wheezed, and died in the center lane of 3rd Mainland Bridge, horns blaring behind her. She was out of the car, waving uselessly at drivers, when a reckless Okada rider sped too close and splashed a perfect arc of muddy water onto her white silk blouse. "Jesus Christ," she shouted. "Are you blind?" The rider slowed, removed his helmet, and turned with a sheepish smile that somehow made her angrier. He was tall, lean, his eyes full of mischief. A camera hung from his neck. "My bad," he said, his grin infuriatingly calm. "But you look good in brown." "Excuse me," he chuckled. "Just saying the mud brings out your eyes." She glared. "You think this is funny?" "Only a little." "Don't worry, I'll help you push." He parked the bike, walked over, and began pushing her car without another word. They got it off the lane, sweat and rain mingling on their faces. When it was done, she turned to thank him, but he was already taking photos. "Are you seriously taking pictures right now?" she snapped. "Traffic. Lagos. A furious woman." "It's a story," he said, smiling through the lens. "You're the perfect main character." She would later laugh at that, how her first picture in his camera was one of pure anger. They met again 2 weeks later, purely by chance or maybe fate, at a photography exhibition on Victoria Island. Teni had gone with her colleague, half bored, until she froze before a black and white photo, a woman standing by a broken car, face stormy, eyes fierce. It was her. The caption read, "Beauty in the breakdown." "Nice shot, right?" came a familiar voice. She turned, startled. Femi stood beside her, grinning. "You took this." "Guilty." "Without permission." He shrugged. Art doesn't wait for permission. She rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. Something about him, the unfiltered joy, the way he saw life through his lens, fascinated her. That night, they sat at a roadside spot. She learned he was a freelance photographer from Mushin, raised by his grandmother. No fancy degree, no connections, just a camera he'd bought from selling his father's old radio. "I take pictures because the world forgets easily," he said. "I want to remember everything." "And what do you want to remember about me?" she teased. He looked at her then, steady, as if memorizing her face. "Everything," he said softly, "especially the part where you're pretending not to smile." Their love unfolded like a song, unplanned, imperfect, but unforgettable. He showed her Lagos like she'd never seen it before. The Makoko morning mist where fishermen laughed through hunger. The graffiti-covered trains at a Butte Meta. The street kids who called him Uncle Femi and posed proudly for his camera. Teni, who'd lived her life inside air-conditioned offices and routines, began to breathe again. With him, she laughed louder, lived slower, and stopped checking her phone every 5 minutes. One evening, they sat on the edge of Tarkwa Bay Beach, watching the sunset stain the water gold. He turned to her. "Do you ever think the city listens to us?" How do you mean? Every laugh, every heartbreak, it's like Legos keeps them all. Maybe that's why it rains so much. Too many stories to cry for. She smiled, leaning into him. You and your poetic nonsense. He grinned. Maybe. But if the city forgets us, I'll find you in the rain. She laughed then, not knowing those words would someday haunt her. The silence began small. A missed call, a late reply, a canceled date. Then one day, nothing. His phone rang endlessly. His Instagram stopped updating. His studio, a cramped space in Surreal filled with photo negatives and coffee smell, was locked. Teni waited a day, then a week, then a month. She went everywhere, hospitals, police stations, even beaches. No one had seen him. Rumors flew. Someone said he'd gotten a contract abroad. Another said he'd joined a film crew in Ghana. One woman swore she saw him boarding a ferry looking pale, thin, tired. She refused to believe he'd left without saying goodbye. Femi wasn't like that. But hope has an expiration date. After 6 months, she packed up his things. She'd kept: his scarf, a broken lens, a note he once scribbled, "Don't forget to live." She put them in a shoebox and tucked it away. Life went on. It had to. Teni got a promotion. She moved to a quieter part of the mainland. She learned how to laugh without meaning it. But every time it rained, she'd stand by the window and whisper, "Where are you, Femi?" 3 years later, on a rainy Tuesday morning, the letter arrived. The handwriting stopped her breath. Her fingers shook as she opened it, the smell of old paper and something faintly metallic rising from the folds. "My dearest Teni, if you're reading this, I couldn't keep my promise. The doctors say my time is short, a tumor in my brain, the kind that grows faster than hope. I didn't want you to see me fade. I wanted you to remember me with a camera in my hand, not wires on my chest. You once said love was patient. I'm sorry mine was selfish. I left Lagos so you wouldn't waste your life waiting for someone who was already running out of time. Please don't come looking for me. Just know you saved me. You made a boy from the slums feel like he belonged to the stars. When the rain comes, look outside. That's me trying to touch your face one last time. Yours, always, Femi." It was a memory card. "I found it by the rocks," he said. "Looks old. Thought you might have dropped it." She hesitated, heart thudding. She hadn't been carrying any camera. "No," she said quietly, but took it anyway. "Thank you." He smiled, a kind, brief smile, and walked off. But as he left, the setting sun glinted off his lens, and for a split second, she thought she saw Femi's reflection in the glass. The same grin, the same spark. Then he was gone. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, staring at the memory card. Her fingers trembled as she slid it into her laptop. The screen blinked. 214 photos. The first few were of street kids, beach sunsets, and market stalls, his signature style. Then she gasped. Photo after photo of her. Not posed, not aware. Smiling at suya spots, laughing with a bottle of Coke, looking out at the sea. Every angle, every emotion he'd ever seen in her captured quietly, lovingly. Her throat tightened. The date stamps on the photos, all taken within the last month before he vanished. Then came the last video file. Just one. Named. For Teni Are Forever. She clicked it. The image was shaky Femi in a hospital bed, his face pale but smiling weakly. Tubes ran from his arm, a faint beep in the background. His voice was soft but clear. "Hey, stubborn woman," he whispered, grinning. "If you're watching this, I didn't make it back. But don't be sad, I beg. You gave me a reason to wake up every morning. You made me believe that love isn't something you find, it's something that finds you when you're not looking. Promise me one thing, don't lock your heart away. Go live. Fall in love again. Laugh too much. Take pictures. Because if love is forever. He smiled faintly. Then I never left. The screen flickered and went black. Teni sat frozen. Outside, it began to rain again, soft at first, then stronger, drumming against the windows. She stood, opened the window, and stepped into the downpour. The rain soaked her instantly, warm and relentless, washing away every wall she'd built around her heart. And in the rhythm of the falling water, she could almost hear his laugh, feel his breath, see his eyes in every flash of lightning. Months passed. Life, as it always does, went on. But something inside Teni changed. She left her banking job, bought a camera, enrolled in a photography class. Sometimes she'd go to Makoko or Tarkwa Bay, capturing faces, stories, strangers. She smiled more now, not because she'd stopped missing him, but because she'd learned that love doesn't end, it simply transforms. On the anniversary of his disappearance, she visited his grandmother's house in Mushin. The old woman smiled softly when she saw her. "Ah, Teni, Femi talked about you every day," she said. "He told me, Grandma. If she ever comes, tell her the rain remembers." Teni's eyes glistened. She nodded, holding back tears. That evening, as she walked home, it began to drizzle again. She looked up, closed her eyes, and whispered, "I remember too, Femi." The rain fell harder, each drop warm against her skin, as if someone somewhere was whispering back, "I never left." If you enjoy the story, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.